DreAllDay.com.
You are now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. What is personal initiative? That is the go-getter energy that moves you, me, him, her, them, they, to go make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Then we put all this together into one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy, one book, one show called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how constraints actually become your freedom. Now, before I get into explaining what the hell I'm talking about, what that means, and how you're going to use it, which I'm going to do all of that here today. First, I'm going to tell you that I have a text message line where I want you to text me and tell me the best insight that you gleaned from today's masterclass. Tell me the best new idea you got from what you heard here today. Tell me something you're going to do differently based on what you heard here today. Maybe a spark or an idea or an inspiration that you got from something that you heard. My direct text message number is 305-384-6894. And when you text me there, not only will you be able to engage with me, you'll also be in my texting community, which means you're going to receive my daily motivation text message, which I send out every single morning to everyone in my texting community, and some other goodies that I'm not even going to tell you about right here. Just get into the texting community and trust me. My number again, 305-384-6894. Now, this topic here, I heard this woman named Layla Hormozy. She was saying this in a video that I stumbled across on YouTube, and it was a really good insight, the way she explained this. And I realized that even though I agreed with the concept, and it's not something that was completely brand new to me, I like the way that she laid it out. And as I thought about what she was saying, the video was only like 5 minutes. I started automatically, the wheels started turning in my head, like how I could talk about this and framework it out and explain it to my audience, being you all who are listening to me right now. And hence, here we are. Now we have this episode. The rest became history. So I realized I had never given a full masterclass to this very topic. So now we are here right now. So the topic, once again, is how constraints actually become your freedom. This is a good topic to lead you right into reading my book, The Third Day, The Decision That Separates the Pros from the Amateurs. If you're watching on video, I'm holding it up on camera right now. You can get this book, paperback or hardcover. Go to thirddaybook.com. I'll give you the book for free. I've already paid for the books. All you're going to do is cover the shipping. So just go to thirddaybook.com. You can get the paperback, you can get the hardcover, you can get an autographed version of the book, you can get a 10-pack or a 3-pack. So if you want to give these to a couple of your players, a couple of people on your staff or on your team, we got that covered as well. We thought of everything. So go to thirddaybook.com and claim your copy of that book. We'll send it to wherever you are. Now, and oh yeah, the links and the numbers and all that stuff is down below in the description wherever you are consuming this beautiful masterclass. Point number one, the topic once again is how constraints are your freedom. First thing, let's remember Parkinson's law. If you don't know what Parkinson's law is, it is a law that was coined back in 1955 by a gentleman by the name of Cyril Northcote Parkinson. That's why it's named after him, Parkinson's law. It is the old adage that work expands or constricts to fill the time allotted for that work. Put simply, the amount of work required adjusts to the time available for its completion. The amount of work that you're going to get done, you will adjust that. Well, let me say that again. I think I might have said that backwards. The amount of time that you have to get a job done, that's how long you're going to take to get it done. That's what Parkinson's law means. So in other words, if I tell you, listen, I need that document on my desk within the next 24 hours, you will take 24 hours to get the document on my desk. If I tell you that I need that document on my desk within the next 2 hours, you will have it on my desk within the next 2 hours. Now, are there exceptions to this? Yes, of course. Every rule has exceptions. Many laws have exceptions. The general concept of Parkinson's law is that us human beings, because we are inherently lazy, because inherently we try to consume energy and consume time, conserve energy and conserve time is a better way of saying it, not consume, but conserve, save energy and time. We take as long as we can to get things done. We take as much time as will be available to us to finally get around to doing things. And this is why a sense of urgency is such an important thing here in our lives. Is why I've given whole episodes of urgency, is why I've talked about urgency in my books, is why I talk about urgency in many of my courses. In episode 1172, I told you that your lack of urgency is your biggest problem in life. In episode 408, why a sense of urgency is the key success tool that you need to develop. And the reason why urgency is such a big deal is because being urgent goes against our inherent human nature. Our inherent human nature is to just let time go by and things happen as they happen. That doesn't mean we're just sitting around smelling the flowers. Doesn't mean we're not going to work, but we're not being urgent about it. In other words, as human beings, we get into autopilot. We get into this autopilot mode where we are working and we're showing up and we're doing all the right things, so to speak, the things that we're supposed to do, but we're not being urgent about it. In other words, there's another level that we could go to in terms of our focus and our attention and the energy we're putting into something, and we can condense time with that urgency. But if we're not consciously thinking about doing that, we don't do it. By default, we're not going to do it. You only do it when you're consciously thinking about it. Now, if you constantly think about it enough and you do it enough, then it can become a habit. But if you don't keep reminding yourself of it, then eventually it wears off and you go right back into autopilot mode. It's kind of like the old cliche that motivation does not last. Well, neither does bathing. That's why we had to do it on a consistent basis. It's the same thing with our urgency. And this is why Parkinson's law is Parkinson's law, because the human natural state is to get into autopilot and just do things on a cruising level. Now, the disclaimer, what you have to understand is each human being has a different cruising pace. Some people cruise at the pace of a Ferrari. Some people cruise at the pace of a smart car or a Volvo. But all of us could go at a faster pace and condense time relative to what we're used to doing if we had more urgency. And this is the first point that I want you to get, is understanding this Parkinson's law, is that the things that you're doing right now in your life and the timelines that you're working with right now for the strategies and the outcomes that you want to get to, I'm going to challenge you by telling you the following. You could get those things done a lot faster if you chose to. You get them done a lot faster if you made yourself get them done a lot faster. You could get them done a lot faster if you had a little bit more urgency about your life. And listen, I understand the time that we're living in right now. We're living in a time of emotions are okay. We're living in a time of compassion. We're living in a time of mental health matters just as much as physical health. I'm not saying that I'm asserting these things. I'm saying that this is what we're seeing. And all of you have seen this. If you have TV or the internet and you're listening to this, you have at least one or the other. We all have seen this. And there are people who are listening to me saying this right now, and they're saying, yeah, Dre, I get it, but, we don't have to always push ourselves. It doesn't always have to be go, go, go. We don't always have to, be urgent about things. Sometimes in life you have to slow down. Sometimes you have to honor your mental health and your mindset. And if you're not all there and, you're not really feeling it to do that thing right now, it's okay. And it's brave and it's bold and it's courageous to say that you're not quite feeling it in the moment, and you can step back and, get to it later when you're in more of a right state. And listen, I understand that perspective exists. At the same time, I'm telling you that this perspective exists. Because a wise individual is able to hold two ideas in their mind at the same time that may be in direct conflict. And these ideas are in conflict. I'm telling you that both of them are true. The truth is rarely sexy. So I'm not here telling you that you need to be urgent all the time, or that you have to push yourself all the time, or that you can look at every timeline that you have and cut it in half because you could get them done in those times. But I'm telling you that. I'm not telling you that, but I am telling you that. Those things are true. So the thing that you're working on right now that you think is going to take you till the end of 2021 to get done, you can get it done by the end of next month if you wanted to. You get it done by the end of next month if you had to. I guarantee you that. This is what the urgency is about. And this is understanding Parkinson's law. If you're making up arbitrary timelines for getting to your outcomes in life, well, who decided that it's going to take that long? Why did you decide on that timeline? Now, what if we cut it in half? What if you had to do it in half the time? What would you do different? Now, I'm not even saying that you have to, but let's just have a thought experiment here. What if the outcome that you're working on right now, instead of, let's say you're 35 and you say you want to get to a certain space financially by age 40, what if I said, all right, what if we had to get there by the time you were 37? What would you do different? What would you change? What would you stop giving yourself time to get to? Are there some changes that you would make? Are there some things you would do differently? Are there some risks that might not really be risks that you would take, knowing now that instead of having 5 years, you only got 2? Would you do some things different? What if there's that outcome that you want to get to? Let's say you're age 50 right now, and you got some things you want to do before you retire at age 65, but then you found out, then you went to the doctor, and the doctor told you, you know you're going to die at age 60. So you don't have 15 years to get these done. You only have 10. As a matter of fact, and I would say, you know what, you don't have 10 because you're going to be dead. You don't want to reach the goal and die the next day. How about we do it in 5, so then you at least get 5 years to enjoy it. So let's say instead of getting to this goal by 65, let's get to about 55, so you can at least enjoy it for 5 years, then you can drop dead. All right. Could you figure that out? Could we come up with a strategy for that? If you had to. Again, this is just a thought experiment. I'm not saying that this is actually happening, but let's just say if you had to get things done in 80% of the time that you're giving yourself, could you get it done? And if so, what would you do? If so, how would you do it? And this is the reason I'm calling this a thought experiment is because I'm trying to open your mind to the idea and to the truth that Parkinson's law is real, and you can see it in your own life. If you can answer these questions that I'm asking you, if you have a 15-year plan, I said, well, if we had to get it done in 5, how would you do it? And you can come up with some ideas and some answers, which you can. That means Parkinson's law, that's proof that Parkinson's law exists. You are giving yourself 15 years, but you could get it done in 5 if you needed to, if you wanted to, if you had the urgency to do so. Again, I'm not saying you have to, but I just want to open your mind to understanding this is what Parkinson's law is about. All of us as human beings, none of us is as efficient as we could be. All of us could be a lot more urgent about our lives, about our actions, about our work, about getting to the outcomes that we want to get to. But because we are human, and this is just a limitation of being human, Parkinson's law exists. Now that you're thinking about this, I would assume some of you who are listening to me right now, you're going to be a little bit more urgent. You're going to move a little bit faster. You're going to look at some of your goals and say, you know what? This doesn't have to take me a week. I can get this done in 3 days. You know what? This is not going to take me to the end of the day. I'm going to get this done in the next 30 minutes. You know what? I'm moving a little bit too slow right now. You know what? Let me pick up my pace right now. You know, I'm pacing myself in the gym. Let me go a little bit harder. Right now, you're in the gym listening to this, and you're on the treadmill. You got it on a 4.2. You're going to put it up to about a 4.7. Why not? You can do it. You're capable of doing it. And here's the thing. It's going to work. You're going to do it, and you're going to feel that energy, and you're going to be locked in. You're going to be like, damn, you know what? I had that in me the entire time. Here's the problem. Parkinson's law is fighting against you. You have 27 years of Parkinson's law against your 2 hours of being excited and inspired to move at a faster pace. So here's the challenge. This is what we call the third day. Now you got to remind yourself to do that again the next time. Are you willing to do it? Because it's not going to be so easy the second and third and fourth times, because now your body's going to start responding to you. Your body's going to start reacting and saying, hey, this is not what we signed up for. You sure that we're going to do this every day? This is the new standard? Or your body's going to give you some feedback. Your mind is going to give you some feedback. Life is going to give you some feedback on this new urgency that you decide to try out for a day or two. Again, going up against your 27, 37, 15 years of default that you've been up to. Parkinson's law. What are you going to do? I'll tell you what you should be doing is reading my book, The Third Day, because I'll tell you how to deal with that before it even happens. Now, when you get into that space and it's happening, what are you going to do in that moment? You better have somebody to call. Not Ghostbusters, but you better have somebody like myself or a book like The Third Day to reach out to read and remind yourself of staying in that mental space focused. All of us know what it feels like to have a sense of urgency and to beat back the natural instincts that Parkinson's law are built on. We all know what it feels like to do that. The question is, how often do you get there? And the other question is, how long do you stay there before you go right back to Parkinson's law? Most of us, almost all of us, as a matter of fact, is a temporary thing. Right, we get the energy for a moment while we're thinking about it, and then it goes away. We get the energy while we're in a certain environment around certain individuals, and then it goes away. Then we go right back to the default state. This is what Parkinson's law is all about. If you give yourself 5 hours, take 5. If you had to, you take 2. Human beings, we get serious about life after a scrape with failure or a scrape with death, or some situation occurs where we have no choice, or at least we feel that we have no choice but to get certain things done, all of a sudden we have all this urgency and all this energy, and we're just so sharp and so efficient. And some of us, maybe you've experienced this, I definitely have, when we get into that space and we get the thing done way faster than we thought we can get it done, we ask ourselves, damn, why wasn't I like that all the time? Why can't I just be like that every single day? The reason is because we're human and we are lazy, all of us. We are all lazy. Now, again, we all have a different baseline. My baseline might be higher than your urgent, or your urgent might be 10 times higher than somebody else's baseline. But all of us, relative to what we could be doing at our urgent level, all of us are lazy. We are not urgent unless we have to be. We are not efficient. We waste time. We don't do things until or unless there are mechanisms in place that force us to get things done. And the tragedy of life is this. Many of us never acquire these mechanisms. We never have these ideas. We never get these insights. Thus, we never get to the outcomes that we want to get to. Now, everybody who's listening to this right now, you're not going to be in the tragic category because you're listening to me talk about it right now, even if this is the first time you ever thought about it. Many of you have thought about this before. Many of you have heard something along these lines before. You haven't heard it in this way, but you've heard or thought something along these lines before. Many people who I've had conversations with have even told me these very things. Like when I was in this environment and I was doing these things, this thing and this thing, I was very urgent and much more efficient than I am right now. I had people say this exact thing to me. So you're not going to be in the tragic category if you're listening to this show right now, but you think the fact that there are 8 billion people on the planet, most people never have these ideas. They never even cross their minds. And that's the tragedy, because they could get a lot more out of their lives, but they never do because they're not even aware of the fact that Parkinson's law is controlling them and keeping them in that cruising mode, keeping them in cruise control. And there's nothing wrong with cruise control until you realize you're almost out of time and you wonder why you've been in cruise control for so long. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is how constraints are your freedom. Number 2, stop giving yourself unlimited time and space to get things done. As I just laid the foundation for giving you this point here in point number 1. So in point number 1, I was just giving you some baseline information, some background info and understanding why us as human beings do not achieve anywhere near the level that we could actually be achieving at. All of us are guilty of this because of our inherent laziness and our inherent lack of urgency. So knowing that, here's the conscious thought. Stop giving yourself unlimited time to get things done. You need limits. You need constraints. You need a calendar. You need you need to do this first, then this, then this, then this, and this needs to be done by this point, this needs to be done then, or we need to do this one today, we need to get this one done now, when are you going to get that one done? All right, you need to hold yourself accountable on multiple levels. Get around other people who will hold you accountable. Hire yourself a coach. Find yourself an accountability partner. Join the mastermind group. Create a schedule and a strategy for yourself. Use a calendar instead of a to-do list. These are all things that you can do to create real constraints for actually getting things done. And then there must be a level of accountability. First of all, self-accountability with you in the mirror. Even if you have a coach, even if you're part of a mastermind group, you still got to be accountable to actually do things. I mean, it's not like the people that you bring around you can actually make you physically do things. They can hold you accountable. They can ask you about them. They can be a person that you respect, so you don't want to look dumb in front of them, but you still had to actually go do them. And then having the accountability mechanisms in place in the form of other people, which works really well. This is why masterminds are what they are, which is why coaching is what it is, why mentors are what they are, why coaching in sports, coaching in business, life coaching, why these things exist, why these are big industries, because people have figured this out already. All right, that's the reason why they're big industries. People know that these things work. You got to give yourself constraints. Constraints move us to action. So when I say how constraints can become your freedom, some people who have never thought along these lines are thinking, oh, why would I want to give myself constraints? Right? I want to be free. I want to be open. I want to be able to do whatever it is that I want to do. No, you don't. You do not want to be free and open and do whatever it is that you want to do. You want to give yourself constraints. Therefore, you will get more things done. You will be more productive. You will be more efficient. You will actually achieve your goals because you're holding yourself accountable to actually getting them done, or you have mechanisms in place. And the mechanism can be a person, place, or thing, or a system that makes sure you get things done within a certain time frame. Because remember, everybody, you do not have unlimited time. And this is something that I bring up on this show all the time, but it's something that as human beings, as we cruise through our everyday lives, often we don't think about this. We kind of bury this idea in the recesses of our minds because honestly, it's kind of uncomfortable to think about. The fact that our time is not unlimited, that one day all of this is going to be over. All this work that you're doing is going to be over. You won't be able to do it anymore. And hopefully there'll be some people who are sad that you're not here anymore. And whatever work that you're working on, that's it. However far you got, that's as far as you got, and it's over. The whole game's over. And this is something, again, people don't always like to think about. If you think about someone who has passed away in your life who was close to you, and it might make you sad, the thought to think about it, but here's the truth, the cold, harsh truth of life, if you want to call it that, is that every one of us is going to have that day. Every single one of us, at least as of today with the science that we know about, everybody's got to die. Therefore, you got two options. You can either continue to cruise aimlessly through life because it's not even, what's the point? Because at some point you're going to die. Or you could say, you know what, since I only have a limited amount of time, here's the constraint. Since my time is limited, I better get as much done as I can before my time expires. Let me make the most of this opportunity that I have. Your choice how you want to think about it. You can choose either one. I am not judging you if you choose choice, the first one, the former. But people who tend to come my way have chosen the latter. I'll just leave that information there for you. The exact reason why you're not getting done all the things that you want to get done is because you have given yourself unlimited time to get to them. And the thing is, with human beings, we don't work too well under those circumstances. We need constraints. You need a fire lit under your ass. And all of us, different fires work for different people. Again, fire can be a person. It can be a schedule. It can be a made-up reason that will hold you accountable. It can be a real reason. We all have a built-in mechanism, a governor, so to speak, that prevents us, most of us personally, from pushing ourselves, but only so far. As human beings, there's only so much pain a human being will put on themselves. But all of us can be pushed at least a little bit, many of us a whole lot further by another person, because another person is not as emotionally invested in your feelings as you are. It sounds cold, and it is cold, you know what? But it's true. Sometimes the truth is cold. Bundle up. We need external forces that will push us further, faster. This is why every athlete, every singer, business people, high achievers, they all have coaches, masterminds, accountability partners. They have constraints in place that force them to get things done. Ask the most successful person that you know. Whoever's the most successful person that you know or know of, ask them, do you have constraints in place? In other words, do you give yourself parameters? All right, this is what I need to get done this week. Here are the things I need to get done today. Here are the people that I'm accountable to right now for doing this, this, and this. Ask the most successful people that you know. Let's say the top 3 successful people you know, by your definition of success. Do they have constraints in place that force them to be urgent and efficient in getting things done? I guarantee you, all of them are going to tell you yes. Now, the question then is, first of all, you go ask them so you can find out for sure, make sure I'm not bullshitting you. And then once you get those yes answers from all those people, ask yourself, do you have constraints in place? And if not, when are you going to create them? Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how constraints are your freedom. Number 3, how will you make it happen with such constraints in place? What I mean here is, because some people are listening to this idea and they're saying, okay, that makes sense. I can put some constraints in place and tell myself, okay, every week I'm going to make 50 phone calls instead of just saying I'm going to just make calls every day and I close the deal and I close the deal. And instead of doing that, I'm actually going to hold myself accountable to making 50 every week. So that means if I work Monday through Friday, I got to make 10 every day. Or if I get some extra time, I'll make some extras on some days, but I got to do at least 50 every week. Now, if you're used to doing 20 a week, and now you're telling yourself you're going to do 50 a week, the question is, how are you actually going to do that? How are you going to deliver at that level when you're not sure you're even capable of delivering at that level? How are you going to do that? I remember when I was reading a book, the book was called Living with the Seal by Jesse Itzler. And he didn't name who the seal was at the time that he wrote the book, but the seal, now everybody knows who the seal is. The seal is a guy by the name of David Goggins who wrote the book Can't Hurt Me, very popular book, a very motivational guy, came out of the military. And Jesse Itzler, in the book, he talks about how he's living in Upper Manhattan, and the seal, and that's all he called him in the book. The seal comes to his house And the SEAL's like, where's the gym in your building? Jesse's like, it's downstairs. So they go to the gym, and the SEAL tells Jesse, all right, get on this pull-up bar and do as many pull-ups as you can. So Jesse does some pull-ups. He does like 20 pull-ups or whatever it was. And he's really dead tired. You know, he's trying to impress the SEAL because this is their first workout. He does like 20. And the SEAL says to Jesse, all right, cool, you did 20 pull-ups. Look, we're not leaving the gym until you do 1,000 total pull-ups. I don't care if you got to do one at a time, but we're not leaving until you do 1,000. And I remember reading that part of the book. It was probably the strongest point that Jesse made in the book. And this is like in the first chapter of the book when he told that story. And the thing about that is Jesse having the SEAL with him showed him that it was possible for him to take himself to a higher level. He just needed a mechanism in the form of a person in place to push him further and faster than he would ever have pushed himself. Would he ever have done 1,000 pull-ups in one day on his own volition? Probably no. And he even said so in the book, because they would do a lot of running. They'd be running outside. And mind you, he's living in New York, and it's in the wintertime, so they're running outside. It's snow. They're running in Central Park, multiple times a day. And Jesse talks about in the book, most of what he talked about in that book was the internal leveling up of his mental game through his interaction with SEAL. And that SEAL was pushing Jesse to do stuff that Jesse never would have pushed himself to do had he been left to his own devices. Now, mind you, Jesse Itzler is not no bum-ass dude just doing nothing. He was already a successful entrepreneur. He's living in Upper Manhattan in his luxury building, so it's not like he's some bum who didn't have anything going on. He's married to the woman who created Spanx. So this guy has something going on. He's no loser. But he was still looking for some accountability to help him be as efficient as he could be, to be more urgent about creating his own success. Now, there should be some clues in there for everyone who's listening to this right now, no matter how successful you are up to this point. So the answer to the question, how can you make it happen? How can you deliver at 10 times the level that you're delivering right now when you're not even sure you can deliver at one time? You can't even deliver at 1x the level you're trying to right now. How the hell are you going to do 10x? Well, the answer is the third day. What is the third day? And I'm not just talking about the book. Yes, there's a book, but I'm talking about the mentality of the third day, which is, it is the decision that separates the pros from the amateurs. It's a very key thing. It's very key. The key word on the cover of this book, the third day, I'm holding it up right now. The key word on the cover of this book is not my name, Dre Baldwin. It is not the third or day. It is decision. Because all of this that I'm talking about right here, being urgent is a decision. Delivering at a higher level is a decision. Being more efficient in your work is a decision. You have to choose to do it. And the root word of decision is incision. What does incision mean? It means to cut, to make a cut, to cut off all other possibilities. When you make the decision that this is what you're going to do, you cut off all other possibilities. And when you force yourself to get to a certain outcome, even though you're not sure how you're going to do it, you know what energy you get? You know what happens in your mind? It's this word that we talked about earlier in today's episode. It starts with the letter U, urgency. All of a sudden you become urgent because you have no other choice. And understand that this works for any human being, anywhere in the world, at any given time. The challenge for all of us is we don't do it often enough. We only do it when it's forced upon us. What I'm suggesting to you today, what I'm offering to you today, is that you make this choice on a consistent basis. And again, you can put mechanisms in place in the form of people, places, things, systems that do this for you so that you don't have to remember to do it every single day. Because humans, we have pretty bad long-term memories for the most part. Have I sold you on this concept enough? And I'll tell you how I could possibly help you with this in a moment. But let's recap today's class and with the last idea that when we talk about, before I get to the recap, as a matter of fact, a little bit more on point number 3, is that this concept of the third day is you're no longer negotiating with yourself. This is what a lot of us do. We do a lot of self-negotiating. And often when we negotiate with ourselves, we never negotiate to push ourselves to do more. We negotiate to do less. Now, you ever negotiate with yourself to do to do more rather? Usually it's to do less. So you negotiate with yourself, you hit the snooze button so you can sleep a little bit more. You don't say, you know what, I'm gonna wake up a little bit. You don't negotiate with yourself saying, no, I'm gonna get up earlier and do more work. No, you say, I'm gonna wake up later and do less. So stop negotiating with yourself. Show yourself the same respect that you would show to another person. Make yourself level up simply because of the payoff of leveling up, for no other reason, just because of that, so that you know you have made the most of your talent and your opportunity here on this planet. Now, again, I wouldn't give this message to just any group of people. I'm giving this message to people who have already listened to me talk for the last 30 minutes on this very concept of how constraints can become your freedom. I'm assuming that I'm talking to an audience of people. Actually, I'm not assuming, I know. I'm talking to an audience of people who want to maximize yourself personally and professionally. I wouldn't say this to anybody. Now, I only say this to certain types of people. And you're one of those types of people. That's why I'm giving this message. Now, I'll tell you how I can help you directly with this in a moment. But first, let's recap today's class, which is how constraints are your freedom. Now, I heard this woman say this. Shout out to Layla. She made it a hot 5-minute video. I made it a hot 30-minute masterclass. And it was a really good insight. And that's why I made this one. Point number one, Parkinson's Law. Understand this. Work expands to fill the time allotted. However much time you give yourself to get something done, that's how long you will take. If you give yourself less time, you will take less time if you actually respect the constraint that you're giving yourself. Why do we take as much time as we can to get things done? Why do we do this, Dre? It's because we are human. We are inherently lazy. We are not urgent unless we have to be. We are not efficient. We waste time. We don't do things until we have to. All of us have this flaw. The tragedy is many of us never even consider this, and we cruise through all of our lives until one day we're dead and we leave a lot of stuff on the table. Don't be that person. Point number two, stop giving yourself unlimited time and space to get things done. That's the exact reason why you're not doing them. You need a fire lit under your ass. That fire can be in the form of a person, a schedule, a reason, something that is going to hold you accountable. Humans have a built-in mechanism that prevents us from pushing ourselves but so far, but another person does not have that mechanism about you because they are not emotionally invested in your feelings. You want to find somebody who's emotionally invested in actual results, regardless of how you feel, so that you can actually get things done. This is why all high achievers have people around them to help hold them accountable to making sure they stay at that high achievement level. It is not some magic pill that those people have that you don't have, or some special talent they have that you don't have. They just have the right mechanisms around them, and maybe, just maybe, you don't and you need them. Point number three, how do you make this happen? How can you perform at a 10x level when you're challenged to even reach the 1x level? It is the concept of the third day, the mentality of it. No self-negotiation, show yourself respect, make yourself level up, because the payoff is you are making the most of your talent and opportunity. If that doesn't excite you, this is not the show for you, and you probably already turned this off. But if you're still listening, then that means you may be a good candidate for my third day mastermind. It is the only place where I offer direct coaching, the accountability that I'm talking about right here, helping you go further and faster than you would on your own, on your own volition. If you're interested in that and you want to talk to someone who can help you maximize your personal and professional development, then go to workonyourgameuniversity.com/call, CALL. You can fill out a quick form. We will send you a link. You can schedule a Zoom call with me, and we'll hop on and talk about where you're at, where you want to go, and how it could be the bridge between where you are now and where you want to be in the future. And we're going to shorten that timeline and make sure you actually get there. If that sounds good to you, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com/call. The link is also down below, and let's get on a Zoom. And aside from that, send me a text message. Tell me the best insight you got from today's class. My number is 305-384-6894. Work on your game. Dre all day.